Welcome to the Unpacking the Lodging Roadmap. And I know there is a lot of built anticipation on this webinar. The three of us plus the other joining panelists are also very excited. I think especially because this means just the conversation we're having makes us one step closer to getting back to visitors, which we all miss. And so I want to welcome all of you who are attending live. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a fantastic turnout so far. I'm going to ask a couple of things before I do introductions, although the other two probably don't need introductions. But if you have any questions, some of you have already sent me questions to ask, which is great. If you have any, I see some of you have already raised your hand. Feel free to raise your hand. If you do that, that means we're going to bring you into the conversation. So if you don't want your voice heard live, then maybe the Q&A panel is better for you, which we also have. So feel free to enter questions into the Q&A if you would like to. My name is Morgan. I'm the CEO of the Calaveras County Chamber of Commerce, and it is a pleasure to be hosting these wonderful faces that you see, because these great minds are really going to provide a lot of great value to you today. So I'm so glad you joined live. If you are not joining live and you are watching the recording and a question did not get answered that you still have, please reach out to us in the comments, reach out to us. We're about to throw our contact information out here too. So please do that. I'm going to start to my left, and I have no idea what direction that is to you, Martin, but would you like to introduce yourself to the group?
Hello, I'm Martin Hubbardy. I'm the Executive Director of the Calaveras Visitors Bureau and Film Commissioner, and I will throw it to Catherine Galino.
Wow, that was quick. I was trying to type in my contact information. Hi, I'm Kathy Galino. I'm the Calaveras County Economic and Community Development Director. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. And to Kristen. You're mute.
I'm on mute. I'm on mute. Great start, Kristen. I'm Kristen Stranger, Health and Human Services Agency Director for Calaveras County.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much for joining. And I'm going to actually get started by asking Kristen to give an explanation, because just to reiterate, we are still not saying, waving the white flag and saying, hey, everybody, come here, we're ready for you, everything's open. That's not what this webinar is to tell you. What this webinar is in hopes that we can provide as many resources for you and answer as many questions for you as possible, so that when that time comes, which can happen quickly, you're already prepared. And we want to do this right. We want to do this safely, and we need to get money back in the county, not close it back up. So I think we're all coming from that same perspective of wanting to open up in a healthy way. So that is why we are here. So Kristen, can you give us a little status update of where we are and what that means?
Sure. So I'll do a quick little overview about where we are as a county in terms of the reopening process as part of the governor's four-phase plan, but then also provide just a little bit of overarching information as it pertains to short-term lodging. So Calaveras County is part of the attestation counties, and that's a word probably none of us have used prior to this pandemic, but now we use it all the time. So as for the first few months, the entire state was all under stage 1, which basically meant very much stay at home, very limited businesses, only limited to those that were deemed essential, and there was a list of essential businesses. And after locals began to continue to have extensive conversations with the state regarding potential flexibilities around being able to reopen, particularly for those communities that had lower disease prevalence within them, such as ours, but also had the ability to do sufficient contact tracing, sufficient ability to provide care as part of the healthcare system, et cetera. So there was a number of parameters that were put into play, and what counties had the ability to do, and this happened about, I would say it's been probably about 3 weeks now, is submit what is called an attestation, basically saying, you know, we've reviewed these parameters, and as a community, we believe that we are prepared to reopen additional sectors as part of stage 2. So we submitted that. We were granted our attestation was posted to the state's website. And so we are amongst other counties who have the most flexibility possible in this current time. Meaning we are allowed to have all of the industries and businesses that are part of statewide stage 2, but then also those additional ones that are only for attestation counties. And all of those businesses are allowed to operate with significant modifications of which the state has released individual sector industry guidance for. And those are available on the website. I think a couple important points for our community to know is that Calaveras has not issued any additional requirements above and beyond what the state modification requirements are. So that's one important part. Another important, and we don't intend to, by the way. The other important part is that, and so when you go to our website, you can see the various connections, for dine-in restaurants, click here, and it's a link to the direct state's websites information for that type of guidance. The other thing too is when it came to the reopening process for those businesses that were detailed as part of stage 2, which again, stage 2 is the maximum that we are allowed to locally take ourselves into. The state as a whole does not have the ability to move into stage 3 at this time. Of course, there's many conversations going on about when and how, but at this time, we do not, as locals, have the ability to move into stage 3. We have seen some businesses move into stage 2 over the past week or so, but again, there's been strong communication that we are not allowed to go to stage 3. The other piece about this is that when it comes to the reopening process, some communities are requiring their local businesses that are part of stage 2 to submit their worksite plans or some sort of a verification that that industry has met the guidance that's posed for that particular industry prior to reopening. We've elected not to do that in Calaveras County. We fully support and know that our businesses have the health of our community just as much as at their heart as integral members of the community. So we're taking much more of an educational standpoint. This is the guidance out there. Here is what your expectation is, and here's how you can access resources, and then go ahead and go as soon as you're allowed for the state and the county. So that's kind of an overarching where we are. In terms of short-term lodging, this has been one that's been a little bit more difficult to understand because since the beginning of COVID and currently, short-term lodging has been allowed to be open, but it's only been allowed to be open for very specific reasons. And we've detailed that because it's one of the areas that's a little bit more confusing. We actually issued a local health order that provided clarification about short-term rentals and what they're allowed to be open for. So short-term rentals, and I will post all of these links because there's a number of things to our chat box website and those types of things just for the good of the group. Short-term rentals are allowed to operate for limited reasons, such as providing COVID-19 mitigation and containment measures, treatment measures, providing accommodations to essential workers, or providing housing solutions to protect vulnerable populations such as homeless. And we actually do have a project going on in Calaveras County, of which 2 to 3 hotels, I believe it's 2 at this time, are actually providing those types of specific are serving those specific populations. So they are operational because they are providing those types of services. I think it's also important to note that hotels can open and be open privately, without, so long as they are providing accommodations for essential workers. So you could have PG&E team members going up to a hotel and being able to rent because those are considered essential workforce. So this is the area where we're seeing a little bit of confusion from the community with very good reason. So I will continue and be able to take all sorts of questions on this as we progress throughout this webinar. And then lastly, the other part that's a little bit confusing is that you will already find on the state's website, and I know Morgan and Kathy are going to cover it in detail, you will already find the guidance for lodging. And the reason that guidance is out there right now, and one could say, well, it's posted, it seems like it should be appropriate to be open. And that's in fact not the case. It's posted because it's meant to help those short-term rental lodging facilities be able to operate to provide service to these specific reasons I just described earlier. So that's why you'll see that guidance out there right now. The state's been pretty clear in multiple places that hotels and lodging for leisure or tourism are not currently permitted to operate in the state of California at this time. So I think that that is probably around the corner, hopefully relatively soon. I don't have any specific detail of when that's coming. If I did, I would be sure to share it immediately, but I don't have that type of information just yet. So the purpose really of today is everything Morgan just said. It's to get prepared for when we do have the ability to provide those expanded lodging opportunities to our visitors coming to our beautiful community to enjoy it.
Thank you. Thanks, Kristen, for that explanation. It's incredibly helpful, and I know we have a lot of new attendees on this call, and so it's helpful to hear from the horse's mouth, from Health and Human Services, where we stand. It's not speculation, it is clear, and we need that clarity, so thank you so much for that. I want to dig in for a second with Kathy and see what sticks out to you, and where should lodging owners, managers what should they be thinking about right now? And I know Martin has a lot to present on this too, and so I don't want to steal his thunder, but what do you have that you want to highlight for people that are watching right now?
So I looked over the guidance, and I don't know if we can post that up in the chat box so that people have access to that. I see a lot of folks on here that I know that I've spoken to. So I think that everybody probably has seen the guidance in the checklist. And I think the biggest and most important thing is that cleaning and sanitizing between customers that come to visit is going to be key. And it's probably going to be very time consuming. Doing employee training with your employees to ensure that they're safe, that you're safe, that your visitors that come to stay are safe. And kind of an overarching theme is ensuring that the proper checks are in place and that you do have a worksite specific plan that outlines everything that you will be doing, your protocols, how often that they will be conducted and performed, who will be performing that, making sure that nobody comes to work sick or not feeling well, or that maybe they even have somebody at home that's not feeling well. It's really important that we contain the virus from spreading. So it also means maybe having some discussions with your potential customers that are coming to visit, screening them, making sure they're feeling well, or that they're not, bringing anything potentially with them. And again, back to the cleaning protocol, when you look at the checklist, it's pretty intense. It's probably by far, out of the 6 seminars that we've done, or webinars, this is probably the most detailed. And in looking at it also, oh, awesome. There we go. I'm looking at it with you. I can't, my laptop's pretty small, so it's hard for me to see all the detail, but physical distancing guidelines are going to be important. For a lot of our Airbnbs, that's probably not going to be an issue. Typically, families come up, they check in, and they don't really interact with, housekeeping or the landlord, as it were. But for other places that are higher density, like hotels and motels, where people are closer together, you're going to have housekeeping daily. You want to make sure that you minimize any interactions from a social distancing standpoint, which everybody's pretty familiar with, the 6 feet. That you have sanitary hand sanitizers available and wipes for not just your staff, but maybe your customers, having a little goodie bag when they check in that has some sanitizers, some wipes, and just reminding them, here's what our specific plan is for our operations here, and really communicating that. Avoid, things where you're sharing things. Again, this is more like the hotels and such, where you have an ice machine or you have a vending machine. Those are areas where transmissions are going to be really high. You got to make sure you keep those things wiped down and cleaned several times a day. And it may be an option that you're just like, yeah, we're just not going to offer that. We're not going to have that vending capability. And then other cleaning protocols about linens, it's pretty specific. There's actually CDC guidelines, and I don't know let's see. I don't know if I can share my screen, but I'm gonna try. Nope, I can't share. But there's very specific cleaning and disinfecting your facility, everyday guidelines, and also something to think about. And I'm going to kind of kick it to Martin now, but something to think about is maybe you didn't know somebody that came to your facility was sick, and then you find out that they do. There's very specific guidelines on how to decontaminate and kind of give that space time to be safe for reuse. So Martin, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of some of the things that you're hearing on the street?
Can
Yeah.
I, sorry, time out really quick. We had another panelist join, so I just wanted to have Colleen introduce herself before Martin takes over. Are you there, Colleen?
I am. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
I'm so sorry. My phone keeps dropping. So, hi, everybody. I'm Colleen Rodriguez from Calaveras Health and Human Services Public Health Division.
Awesome. Thank you. Martin, Martin,
you.
take it away. Wrong direction.
It's not actually allowing me to screen share. So Morgan, do you mind putting up those slides? What I wanted to do was just show you some of the information that I have. And a lot of it will be reiterated from what Kathy just said. But ultimately, if we could go to the next slide. This graph came from the California Hotel and Lodging Association. And essentially what they're saying here is they're looking at that dotted line in the pink. And ultimately that's the way that they feel the cases will go as far as California is concerned. It is critical in the next 2 weeks because they're looking mainly at the fallout from Memorial Day. So hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll be able to move closer to stage 3. We can go to the next slide. This just shows the occupancy rates that even though we've been hit hard, the occupancy rates in May were going up slightly in our major cities. And I think that trend will be pretty consistent around California. Can we go to the next slide? This again is from the California Hotel and Lodging Association. They feel that the leisure travel will obviously begin at stage 3, and they're hoping that that happens within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Kristen, it's my understanding from the people that I've been speaking to this week that there are no attestations needed for going into stage 3, that when the governor calls for stage 3, we immediately can go into stage 3.
So we don't know yet. You're correct at the way it is right now, there's no ability to go to stage 3. There's no attestation process outlined. The governor has said that is where we are right now. So the reality is we don't know if it will be another attestation process or if the whole state will go into 3. But when we do that, if we get that information, we'd be sure to share it.
I guess I'm hoping that within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we are able to move into stage 3 and
yes,
leisure travel is ready to go.
Yes.
Okay, can we go to the next slide? So essentially, this just means that the states and the regions that have no evidence of a rebound of COVID and satisfy the gating criteria the 3rd time are ready to enter phase 3. We can go to the next slide. These were part of a webinar that I attended the other day. Fisher Phillips is a legal team out of Atlanta, and they were just essentially giving us restart plans that were sort of catered to the lodging industry. I can run through these really quickly. And again, a lot of these webinars and information that I get are for larger hotels in major cities, so things don't apply. But I think it's actually a pretty good guideline to go from. And I think that this also reiterates a lot of the information that Kathy was just saying, but I'll just go through it really quickly. You should designate a COVID-19 response team, evaluate local and state shutdown orders, prepare policies and protocols, establish written worksite specific COVID-19 plans, appoint a point person in charge of COVID-19 protocols and policies, verify OSHA compliance, consider practical issues as far as a staggered return and a dry run of extra safety protocols. We go to the next slide. So some of the bullet points are order and distribute PPE, such as face masks, evaluate reimbursement issues if employer is required to reimburse, post-COVID-19 social distancing protocol on entry and exits and in break rooms, install hand sanitizer dispensaries across work sites, prepare protocol for cleaning facility and protocol for cleaning if an employee is diagnosed with COVID-19, evaluate workstations, entries, exits, break rooms, restrooms, elevators to adhere to social distancing, and prepare strict social distancing policy that is enforced. Barriers at workstations, Zoom employee meetings versus in person. Next slide, please. The implement of screening protocol, temperature checks. This was something that's brought up a lot, and obviously at this point in time, temperature checks, they don't feel are going to be necessary for guests. I love the fact that they were saying that, you know, you should hire a third person. I mean, we can't hire a third person to just do temperature checks. So in any case, at the moment, they're not required. Prepare temperature protocol for customers, vendors, and employees. Mandating daily wellness checks, as Kathleen was saying. Prepare compliance for California Consumer Protection Act disclosures if information is kept, and maintain protocol to keep it confidential and separate. Next slide, please. Employee or manager training, how to prevent symptoms, not reporting to work if experiencing symptoms, self-screening temperatures prior to reporting to work, proper use of face coverings, importance of frequent and proper hand washing, importance of physical distancing. This is all just, I mean, this has become common knowledge now. Next slide, please. This is, the next two slides were provided to me by Visit California, and they're very difficult to look at in the respect of just how much we've lost already and what the projections are for May. It's staggering. We go to the next slide. And this shows that we're not alone. California is the largest tourist state in the nation. We get more visitors than any other state. But you can see from the numbers, we're a little ahead of everybody with our ADR and RevPAR, but ultimately we're on a par with the rest of the United States. And lastly, we could go to the next slide. Thank you. Oh, actually, yeah. This slide came from Destination Analysts out of San Francisco, and they poll people all over the states. I think their sample pool is 1,200 people across the nation, adults who travel in the 4 major destination areas. And they asked their pool, you know, what were the most important things for traveling? And it's very difficult to read because this is just a screen grab. But the 4 main things that guests are going to require are guests provided, or that they would prefer, let me put it that way, are that the guests are provided with hand sanitizer, face masks, and disinfectant wipes. That cleaning and sanitizing procedures are well explained, that they require employee health screening, and cleaning activity visible in public areas during your hotel stay. Those were the 4 most desired protocols. And then the last slide, I just wanted to leave on a positive note, is that the road trips and staycations are becoming more likely this summer. I do think that we're going to see a tremendous amount of people coming just to get out of the valley, to be able to spend some time. And while travelers anticipate their next road trip in the near months, nobody's looking to do commercial air travel for leisure.
Yeah.
And that's my presentation.
Thank you, Martin. That was really educational and hard-hitting too for a lot of pieces. I already have some questions, and I already have, I'm not sure if Marita, I'm gonna bring you in. Your hand is raised, and I don't know if you meant for it to be raised, but you are part of the conversation. If you wanna unmute yourself. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Did you have something you wanted to say or a question?
No, it says lower hand.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for joining us. Okay, awesome. We have Naomi Hunter, who we're bringing in here. Naomi, if you want to unmute yourself, you're part of the conversation.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. This is a question for Kristen. So we own a rental cabin in Arnold, and it's my understanding that we are not supposed to go to that cabin right now. I know other people have been, but we've completely stayed away. But I'm wondering, is it acceptable for us to go up there to do preparation for when we reopen? And secondly, I wonder if any of you would be able to provide or recommend a place to get a template for a rental agreement that takes some of these conditions into account, because I feel that once we reopen, we want to have a really solid agreement with our guests, and it would be really helpful to have a template.
Hey, Naomi. Okay, so I think first you're asking because you're not currently in Calaveras County. I just want to confirm that, right? You're in another area and this is your second home up here, correct?
This is the second home and we rented it, yes.
Okay, so this is a question we've got many times. I'm actually pretty well versed at answering it by this point. When it comes to second homeowners, for the purposes of the local order as well as in the state's order, we are interpreting that second homeowners are considered residents, but there's a caveat to that. That is done in the sense that we are currently still under a statewide stay-at-home order. So if you came up to your second home up in Arnold or wherever in the county in early March, right before the stay-at-home order went into effect, the theory behind this is that once the stay-at-home order went into effect, you're here already. You should be staying put to be in compliance with the stay-at-home order. So that is where that comes from and why we've had some of the questions specifically related to second homeowners as a whole. What we are trying to avoid as an entire state, and this is where all of the concepts of the stay-at-home order come into play, is people who are in a different county, let's just use for the sake of conversation, you live in Alameda County, going back and forth from that home to this home to that home and this home, because that is not within the spirit of what the stay-at-home order is supposed to entail. It's supposed to entail literally staying in place. So I hope that answers the bulk of the question. At this time, the stay-at-home order is still in effect, unless one is traveling to perform those essential duties or engaging in the activities that have been dictated and allowed by the state. And I don't think, if I can stop there, if you want to go a little bit further, and then maybe somebody else can take the rental agreement question. Anybody else have the rental?
So I don't have the rental agreement. I would suggest probably reaching out to get some legal advice from an attorney possibly. I have not seen language in leases at this point. So that's probably something that would be a good collaborative effort. How about any of our other lodging facilities? Has that question come up to you? Have you thought about that? And then one thing that I wanted to ask Kristen is, so if they have a second home and they need to come up and do maintenance of their home, is that allowable or no?
The way the stay-at-home order works is they should be staying at home and only traveling relatively close to where they are to engage in recreational activities and engage in essential businesses and things like that. So that's
okay.
My answer.
Because I've gotten that question too.
Okay, we have a couple other questions. Linda Stokes asked, how is the county holding those properties accountable for accepting reservations and guests that are non-essential guests at this time and not adhering to the current order in effect?
So I can take this too. The process that we've put into place, not only for short-term lodging, but all businesses as we move through these various phases, is we have the community call center line, which is back live with bodies. We tried to transition to an email system and have moved back to having that staff, which is great. So the way the process works is when a community member feels the need to report or a complaint about maybe a business that's not adhering to guidelines or a short-term rental facility that they believe is not complying with the guidelines, they call in to that number. We just record those businesses in a log, and then we follow up with a letter that lets them know what the process is. For short-term lodging, this is what the state rules require. For if it's a dine-in restaurant, just here you are, here's the information about in order to be operational, this is what's required of you. And that's where we stop.
Okay, awesome. And we had someone that had their hand raised and it got lowered. Let me hop over to, I got questions from Hillary. So she said, how does Calaveras County classify short-term vacation rentals? Limited hospitality, stage 2, lower risk workplace, stage 2, hospitality industry, accelerated phase 2. So that's the first question there.
Can you say that again, Morgan, or is that in the chat box?
Yeah, I'm going to do both. So her question was, how does Calaveras County classify short-term vacation rentals? And let me put this up here for you.
Okay,
There you go.
Okay, so the short-term rentals, and this is on our FAQ, by the way, and I did post it in the chat box. So I'm going to our order right now. Hold on one second. Apologies, I'm going through this. Okay, so the recension addresses this, and then, okay, here it is. So from the short-term local order, which was put into place to clarify the state's order, short-term lodging facilities, including hotels, motels, condominiums, campgrounds, and other units, is what the description of what the short-term rentals are. In terms of where they are in the stages, we're following the state's guidance, which dictates that hotels and motels for leisure travel purposes are not permitted in stage 2. Hotels, motels, short-term lodging, those things I just mentioned, campgrounds, etc. All of those types of entities can be operational for those limited reasons that I had provided before.
Okay, and we have someone that I'm going to bring in here, David Sweet. Hold on just a moment. The second question was, does Calaveras County have dates in mind for when they will make decisions regarding reopening STVRs for owners whose calendar filled up with the summer bookings pre-COVID-19? It would be helpful to have a guideline for when we might know if we should be continuing to refund summer vacations or if we'll likely be able to honor.
So we do not have that timeline yet, because as I had mentioned earlier, we don't know, or excuse me, short-term lodging for leisure purposes, which is kind of what was just described, are not allowed to be operational as part of stage 2. I think Martin probably gave the best description about doing our very best to try to foreshadow that, but that's dangerous territory to really do that, because this is a very evolving situation. All we know is what we currently are allowed to do at this moment, and that is what I literally just said. So.
And then Hillary's last question before I go over to David Sweet was, how are the STVR restrictions being communicated to owners? I haven't received any emails or letters in the mail, and this may be a factor in some owners appearing to be unaware of restrictions.
So the method by which we've been utilizing to communicate is multi-pronged, and Kathy could jump in here with this too. We utilize press releases, we have a website, we have a community call center line, we do interviews, we do public access television, we present at Board of Supervisors meetings. So those are kind of our main overarching communication measures that we collaborate with partners. I mean, that's the hugest one, right? Working with the Visitors Bureau, working with other entities throughout the city and such. So that's how the county's been really trying to hit as many masses. Can we do a better job of communicating? Absolutely. That's eternally going to be an area that we're going to continue to try to improve on. But this COVID-19 pandemic affects so many industries. That's really the reason why we try to plug our webpage as the most up-to-date resource, because we use that as the way to continue to update all the industries that are being impacted by COVID-19. And Kathy, also the partnership with the Chamber. I can't believe I forgot that one. Did you want to add any additional, Kathy?
Yeah, I mean, social media, we're pretty active on our Facebook pages. The Chamber does a fabulous job blasting out information. So please make sure that if you want information to sign up and like us, friend us, whatever it's called. And yeah, we're posting constantly.
Okay, I'm gonna bring, thank you guys, David Sweet into the conversation. David, if you unmute yourself, you are on with us.
All right, thank you. Before I get to my questions, I don't believe I heard an answer to what defines short-term rentals. Is it a matter of days? Is it 10 days, 20 days, 30 days? What is it?
So I can answer a little bit of this and then I'm gonna send it over to Kristen. But so under like our transient occupancy tax, we determine, or we have defined short-term rentals as anything less than 30 days. If it's
That's
a
what I
rental
thought.
that's over that, then the TOT does not apply. Now, for the
Right.
purpose of COVID-19, I don't believe that's the case. Right, Kristen?
We have not provided any specific direction or interpretation of what is considered short-term rental. What we covered in the local clarification order and what the state has provided, and then what I've covered to date is where we've stopped short. So I would actually defer to you, Kathy, for that more specific interpretation, because we're not going to weigh in on that specific.
Right. So
Okay.
short-term rentals is, you know, under the TOT is 30 days or less.
Yeah, just so you know, that is the interpretation that is widespread amongst Airbnb owners. My question, and I apologize in advance if this sounds angry, but I am really perplexed about the situation that seems to be the case. Is there's a lot of rulemaking, and you've done a great job of describing a lot about the rulemaking and the lack of information from the state. But I guess my basic question is, if the health office has a duty to the citizens of Calaveras County, and the state interpretations are allowing for a situation where we really have an unregulated and unenforced ban, where the stores are full of people from not from here, that this is widely being discussed. And it seems the only owners, like I'm speaking from the Airbnb perspective, who are being hurt by this are the ones that are kind of foolishly believing that we exist in a universe that that you guys are describing, where actually these rules matter. Frankly, it really comes off like rules for arranging the deck chairs in the Titanic, because I think we have a much more unsafe situation with an unregulated, unenforced ban than we would if things were open and owners would be able to enforce our own restrictions, whether they were provided by you folks or not. But we really have an out of control situation that in no way is being addressed by the considerations you guys have discussed so far. I'd appreciate a comment, especially on the health matters. I mean, it really concerns me that I'm hearing comments like there was a checkout person, a friend of my girlfriend's, who said that half the people at Save Mart, this is weeks ago, were out of towners. And I guess they can tell that by, what kind of credit cards or something. So, and a last related question, are you guys communicating to the state that we have an out of control situation?
So this is Kristen. I can provide a response for that. So this is an extremely difficult situation the entire state's in. There's many opinions. It's a very emotionally charged for all the obvious reasons that everybody knows. So the first part wasn't really a question, so there's nothing to really answer that other than saying that what Calaveras County is doing is that we are trying to be in line with what the state orders are and following along with the state. And we have not at this time chosen to do more aggressive measures than what the state is providing. And that's kind of what the governor has been covering recently, is that counties have the ability to impose additional measures, but they don't have the ability to propose measures that are less than what the state is required.
Right.
So while I appreciate the frustration, and I completely do, that isn't something that we don't have the authority to make those types of decisions that go less than or differ from that state guidance.
Okay, well, I have to ask a related question, because there are rules and then there are interpretations of how to enforce the rules. And I brought this to the attention of my supervisor, that I said, hey, San Luis Obispo County is apparently open for short-term rentals. And she came back and said, no, the official rule is that they are following the state guidelines, and I'm only opening those to, I don't know, essential workers or something.
Mm-hmm.
So a friend of mine who's working with me right now was down in San Luis Obispo, rented a place, was clear it was for a vacation type situation. Another couple friend of mine from Arnold were down last week, and they ate in a restaurant outdoors and rented I think it was a hotel or motel. And there was no, they're not, unless you consider the fact that they make documentaries essential work, they were, not essential workers. So it seems like in other counties, there's a wink, wink attitude about this, acknowledging the reality that people, it's kind of a free for all, and they might as well have, some control on it. I just wonder, I mean, are you guys sticking to the notion we're just going to wait till stage 3 and it doesn't really matter what the reality is on the ground?
So we are following the requirements in the law. That's what we're doing. And I can't speak for what other counties are specifically doing in terms of your friend's experience. All I can say is that, yeah, I do know Monterey County is adhering to the same types of guidance that we are, at least from their local health departments. But again, individuals are going to experience various situations and experiences, and it's a very large, ship, and so that's kind of where that is.
Well,
Okay,
and I think if I can add, the county doesn't know everybody that's renting their place. We don't have control over that. If they're not listed with one of the Airbnb, where we actually have a listing of businesses through our TOT, through our tax collector, or they have a business license of some sort, we have no idea. And a lot of the complaints that we received early on were from these kind of underground rental agreements. And so the county has no way of knowing. I mean, I wrote a few letters and I was told, oh no, it's our family. It's we're here, we live here. There's really no way other than basically social shaming for communities to have any ability to police people. I mean, obviously we're telling people over and over, stay home, stay home, stay home.
Right.
Let me jump in and just say that I also want to add that we do it safely and sustainably, and we don't want to end up as Lassen County did, going backwards. So it's just important to be as proactive and as safe as possible.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, I actually, before there was a ban, I asked some questions about somebody who wanted to rent for a month long, and I was not satisfied with their answers and declined it. And I also would like to make the point that COVID is not going away. Okay, it's going to be here a year from now. And the longer that this ban stays in place, and conscientious hosts and owners are not allowed to impose their own regulations, hopefully with your guidance, the more people are going to go out of that business or sell their vacation homes because they can't afford it. And we're going to have an even worse situation. I am part of a group that forwarded some suggestions about how we should be treating the reopening on an individual basis for like Airbnbs, and haven't heard anything back. Have you guys
Okay,
seen that?
I'm not sure. I'm so sorry, David. I'm gonna pause here and transition over. If you could message us directly in the chat, that would be awesome. We have a bunch of questions we want to get through, and I want to respect all of your time. We have a lot of people on this call. Thank you so much for your points, David, and we look forward to having you chat more in the chat box to us. Next question from Chelsea Hill. So Airbnb is allowing owners to book, also has owners confused that the county is open. After talking to Airbnb, they said the county must call and present a stay-at-home order. If not, they will continue to rent. Has the county been in touch with Airbnb or another platform?
So this is Kristen, I can take this. We have not been engaging in monitoring of individual business practices and how they're communicating externally. Quite frankly, we don't have the bandwidth to monitor every single business's external communication for compliance. The way we have been addressing these types of situation, again, is when they become aware, when we become aware through usually the call center line, we are following up individually with written correspondence to educate our community members about what the requirements are under the current climate. And so that is the way we are engaging with that.
I just want to add on that too, because I receive a number of calls every day from people from out of the county asking about being open. A lot of them are calling because they're afraid they're going to lose their deposit. So they're hesitant too. And the reason I say that is they're being proactive. They're not just depending on, well, if Airbnb says it's okay, then it must be okay. They're doing their due diligence, because I think a lot of visitors right now are recognizing that we're in such strange times. And so they're trying to be respectful. They're definitely anxious to get out, but they're doing their due diligence probably more than they normally would to make sure that their investment of their vacation time is well spent. So just thought I would add that piece too. Another question also, how will the county deal with owners still renting? This is a problem, especially when so many are losing revenue and complying. Who is regulating this and monitoring?
So I think I provided that answer already. Does anybody have anything else to add? But I can rephrase it if it'd be helpful. I went over the process by how, when we become aware of somebody who's not necessarily potentially, I don't want to say not, because we don't know, right? This is somebody calling in. We provide that information and educate them on the process. So that is what we're doing. Plus
good.
I was going to say, plus the outward communication that we do initially, right? The press releases, the Facebook, the social media, the webinars such as this, as much type of external communication we can possibly do as well.
And I was just gonna,
oh, sorry.
I was just gonna add the call center number. A lot of the calls that we receive are, the same caller, the same issue, but that call center number is in the chat box.
Linda Stokes just had something interesting to say for Airbnb. She said, if the owner uses a management system to keep track of their rentals, they can block the availability from their calendar and make the unit unbookable. It's the owner's responsibility, not Airbnb's, to police. Interesting. Okay, now I have more. Okay, on to Belinda. She had a question. She said, I don't know if there's any information or advice regarding UV light wands. They've been in the news and I'm wondering if they're effective and a viable tool for us in the lodging business. Any information you can provide would be greatly appreciated.
I don't have knowledge of UV light wands. You, Colleen? Okay.
No, unfortunately not.
I'll take a moment here just to say, I don't know if this is actually on any of the vendors lists, but I'm going to do a shameless plug right here for where you can find some great resources. So if you go to calaveras.org, O-R-G, and go to the Back to Business, some of you have already seen this and been on there, but we have, as a collaboration from the people that you see on here, created a Back to Business toolkit. And this is a live document. It's not meant to be printed aside from the signage at the end, because we are updating it on a regular basis. So you can see this was updated a couple of days ago. It'll probably be updated again this evening. And what it has in here is a number of resources available for you with live links, so you can have the most up-to-date information. Specifically, I want to point to PPE providers. I don't know if Ferguson or Scott's has a UV light, but you can check. There's catalog links right here. If you are looking for PPE resources, I have some good news. So because of the state funneling materials to Health and Human Services, they have allowed the chamber to provide free PPE in the interim until you receive your PPE order. So currently on hand, I have masks and I have face coverings. And so if you need those because your PPE order is on hold, then please reach out to me. The number is 209-754-5400, and we can arrange a pickup time for you to get the materials that you need. But again, these 3 PPE providers have resources available for you. I wouldn't recommend Amazon. I've had a lot of people say that their orders got pushed out by months, literally. And so it just depends on what you're having. And so all 3 of these have materials now, and some of them have same day free delivery too. So definitely check that out. Go to the Back to Business Toolkit. Looks like we have another comment here.
Morgan, can I jump in for just a second?
Oh,
And say that I would love to research that UV wand. And if it's all right, I'll do that in the next couple of days and get you that information.
And when you do, if you can post to where we're posting the video recording so people can come back to it, that would be great.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. That would be educational for all of us. Wow, lots of questions. Anybody else have questions that they want to get answered before we move on to the next? This is the time. So let's see. Kara, I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. How are Airbnb owners able to control the people's guest behavior? I don't know if there's an answer for that. We can't control human beings.
And she also mentioned for contact tracing. So I know that's one of the things that if you have a guest that comes, it speaks about it in the guidance, and they find out that they're positive, there's a process that they'll need to go through by notifying public health and so forth. Kristen, do you want to talk a little bit about contact tracing? It's so fun.
Sure. So the way contact tracing works for our agency is when we become aware of a COVID positive individual from Calaveras County, right? Because the residents of Calaveras County are who the information is relayed back to Calaveras County Public Health. We engage in a contact investigation process, and basically the point of that is just to notify those who might have been who may have been in close contact with the COVID positive individual, to let them know how to check for symptoms, if quarantine is necessary based off of what they, how close that contact was, how they can identify a testing site. So that is the overarching, and it's a measure to help further prevent the spread of diseases, to continue that in extensive contact tracing. Colleen, this is your shop. I should have let you answer this one. Do you have anything else to add?
I don't. I think that the important thing though is to know that if someone from another county gets tested, or if they get tested in another county, as Kristen said, but they're from Calaveras, we find out about it. And so there have been incidents where folks from other counties have been in Calaveras or have been in touch with someone who's positive that the original person is from another county. We get that information and we follow up with all of that. So I just want to make assurances that that there's an entire state system where we all communicate throughout jurisdictions, and that's what our contact tracers do.
Awesome, thank you. There is a caller that's on here, and I don't know, Debbie, if you're in a good spot or not. Do you want to introduce yourself and add your points? Are you muted? Can you hear me, Deb? Okay, maybe she'll come back here. All right. Any other thoughts that you guys want to share? I know this is a heavy topic, and we still have a lot that's coming forth. I have one question that I'm going to bring up here, and then if you guys want to add on to that. So someone commented that the locals are frustrated with the massive amount of people and flooding to the mountains on the weekends. Every lake and HOA are packed with people, garbage, shortages on supplies. Highways are being clogged with people. How do you plan on addressing the residents' concern?
So this is Kristen. I could take that one. This is a perfect example of the dynamic that is involved with this pandemic. There's a certain amount of people who are very much wanting to reopen and have external people coming in, and then you've got a significant amount of people as well who are share an opinion very similar to this. And I say that only to illustrate the dynamics of the current situation that we're in. In terms of specifically addressing the situation, what we are doing in order to address that is, one, we have the information on our website. We do webinars such as this to communicate what the requirements are at the current time. Two, we have the process in place for if somebody notifies us, somebody who's not potentially not complying with the rules, we engage in that educational sending of information. And then three, we still have a standing local order of clarification, specifically addressing short-term rentals and providing that clarification. All of those in collaboration are meant to do our very best to address all residents of Calaveras County, their concerns, and balance this very difficult dynamic situation.
Could I jump in and say, I mean, it is a catch-22 and it's a very difficult situation. I mean, it is the elephant in the room, but I think it's really important to say that it cannot be the tail wagging the dog. We have to dictate how we want our visitors to come to us. And I've been on lots of calls with business organizations, et cetera, and I think that we really have to draw these rules. Don't let the tourists and visitors take over our destination. Let our destination say what we require. The Visitors Bureau has been furloughed and down, and I hope to come back next month and help spread that messaging.
Great. Kathy, do you have anything to add?
I was trying to answer a question for Hillary. A short-term rental is under 30 days. 31-day rentals are not considered short-term rentals. And that is based on our TOT ordinance. And if you want, I can research that and get that to you. So I just kind of want to share with the group some of the things that I'm doing kind of going forward, not just for the lodging industry, but for all of Calaveras County and businesses, working on a couple of grants for developing a revolving loan fund for local businesses here. One of the issues that I've seen through this whole process is access to capital has been very limited. People did try to get EIDL loans, PPP loans, and were not very successful. It was very frustrating. So keep your fingers crossed. I just submitted the applications today. Hopefully we'll hear back shortly, but we really need to look forward and stay strong together, be resilient, keep our communities resilient, keep ourselves healthy, our family healthy, and all those we love and care about.
Kristen, Martin, I know Colleen needs to hop off here. Does anybody have any closing words that they want to add on to?
No, other than I just did want to remind everybody on the state's website, and I believe was posted in the chat section, there is the 2 documents that the lodging entity should really familiarize themselves with, which is the guidance and the checklist. and in there it helps you to develop the work site plan and everything like that. And that we would advise that you keep those available and get working on those in preparation for leisure activities, or if you're already operating for those measures that I had outlined earlier. Just again, to clarify, you aren't going to see anything additional from public health. Those are going to be your go-to documents. So just for clarity's sake, because there's a lot of information going around everywhere.
Yeah. Martin, any closing thoughts?
I just wanted to say thank you. I thank you for having me on, and I appreciate the work that you've been doing. I think it's really valuable information for our county. And again, I should be in the office next week, so if anybody has any questions or wants to talk, I'm there.
Yeah. I'll just say this, you know, we have a lot of attendees, and so I apologize. Some of you may still have questions. So if you do, please feel free to reach out. I know this is a heavy topic. I know this is hard. It's not easy, and this is not black and white, unfortunately. And I want to encourage you. I love using the word spirit because Governor Newsom has been using it so much. And so please know that truly the individuals that you see here, our leadership in our county, have truly been working hard, rolling up their sleeves, coming together in the spirit of trying to move the county forward, both economically and in a safe way. And I hear this repeatedly, and it's so important to understand that because it feels like sometimes there's not a winning side. There's no easy process to this, but COVID-19 is not easy. And so, you know, please have respect and have compassion for fellow business owners, fellow community members, and for people that are trying to work hard to help things get better. So thank you all. I know you're working so hard and needing to have that ability to open up soon. So fingers crossed, prayers said, good thoughts going out. This will happen soon, and we'll be able to do it safely as well. So thank you so much for watching. And if you're watching this as a repeat, thank you for tuning in, and please feel free to ask questions below and we'll get back to you. Thank you all. Have a great Friday.